Welcome to my channel, Ken here. I have 3 headphones here, the Stax and 2 Audezes. Let's see how they fare in the studio. Let's go! These are the Stax Lambda Signature with very old pair of headphones from maybe the early 90s, late 80s. And I've had these forever, but they've been broken forever. And I contacted Stax to get replacement parts for it, and lo and behold, they had them. So not original like it used to be, but it works now. And because it's an electrostatic earphone, it needs a driver, and it still works perfectly. However, for studio use, I'll talk about this in a little bit. Of course, I also have the Audeze LCD-X's, planar magnetic headphones that I use quite a bit. And I have a pair of brand new LCD-5s. They are flagship model. I'm driving them with the Burson Soloist Class A amp, but they work perfectly well with these two anyway. Work perfectly well with pretty much any preamp. They are a little bit tough to drive, but not impossible. My Lynx audio interface has no problem, and my hi-fi system doesn't have any problems really driving them. They just can't get really loud compared to the Burson, for example. Let's talk about these Lambdas first. I have made more mistakes in studio settings with these headphones because they're so bright and they have a really wonky kind of frequency response. They're very comfortable, but they have virtually no bass. Their lower mid-range is also absent pretty much. So it's all mid-range, especially upper mid-range and lower treble, where they sound glorious, detailed, and they're electrostatic, so they're super detailed, and they've always been very detailed. So very often I didn't use them in studio sessions and things like that because it's too dangerous. Everything will get too warm or too muddy, or I just would check them just to make sure there's no noise or for editing, but I probably won't have them in my studio anymore. They're just not very useful. Even if I EQ the frequency response, they still don't quite behave right. Also in that 2K area, they're a little bit ragged, and it's just not reference monitors for me in the studio. But I had them, and I had them fixed, so I haven't listened to them in a decade at least, and now I got to test them out. Pretty comfortable, these headphones. They sit on the head well, cord not so much, but they're comfortable. As far as these LCD-X's, now if you notice, compared to the LCD-5s, there's quite a bit of difference in the diaphragm size. Technically, they also function a little bit differently, I think this is a double magnet design. This is a single magnet. So these are much, much lighter, by the way, like 35% lighter. So these still feel very heavy and bulky compared to these. These feel very comfortable. But let's talk about the LCD-X's. Now, I find them hugely useful for checking mid-range. They're a little warm sounding, and because of their large diaphragm, the mid-range kind of gets like this big, muscular, big sound, especially because they're very good in the lower mid-range up through at least 4K, and that's super helpful for guitar work and checking snares and stuff like that. So I find them very helpful for dialing in tones. I can rely on them a lot when they're EQ'd, because they definitely need EQ, or they'll be too dull sounding and lacking a little bit in the low bass. But anyway, I really like them a lot. I find them very, very useful in the studio. Highly recommend it. Little heavy and bulky, but they also don't move around the head so much either. So that makes them a little more comfortable. but if you shake quickly, you can feel them wobbling on the head. But, you know, they don't fall off when you bend down. That's a very good thing. As far as the LCD-5s, now, of course, they're very similar to the LCD-X because you can definitely tell that they are in the same family. However, the presentation, first and foremost, they're more linear, but they still need EQ, especially because I think they're a little slightly bass shy, but they are so detailed and so accurate as far as like their presentation is concerned that they're tremendously useful in the studio. Sitting and editing on these, it just speeds up my process so much because I can hear right away what needs to be edited. It's not that my monitors, my key monitors are not detailed. They are, but it's just not the same kind of presentation. So for editing, even dialing in tones and making decisions, especially about compression, they're superb. I mean, they're so accurate and detailed that they show all these minute adjustments and settings and problems that you tend to just grab something and just fix it right away. That is something that speeds up my process quite a bit. And the last 2 or 3 mixes I've done where I supplement my main monitors, because do not set levels with headphones. You're just going to end up redoing it for some unknown reason that I haven't figured out why leveling is not good on headphones. But they also have an uncanny ability to kind of not jar your senses when you put them on. After you've been listening to, let's say, your monitors for a while and you put them on, it's not like a jarring experience, which some headphones are, where you go, oh, now I got to adjust to this, and it takes time. Once they're EQ'd, you don't have that problem, because with headphones, it always feels like the sound is emanating inside your head for obvious reasons, rather than a frontal presentation. Usually with headphones, I find it very difficult to make that adjustment within seconds. It takes a few minutes to kind of, oh, okay, now I got it. But not so much with these. I mean, I put them on and I go, okay, boom, 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 it's headphones moving forward. That's a very good thing. I mean, they're super expensive. A little bit overpriced, I'll be honest with you, but because they're so innovative in their design and they use very expensive materials, I think that, I guess, the money saved is going to be in the workflow itself, speeding your process up. So they do have a little bit smaller mid-range than the LCD-Xs, especially on guitars. And I still find myself grabbing the LCD-Xs when I deal with guitar tones. They just have a massive sound for especially distorted guitars. However, sitting with these on for hours is not a problem. It is for the LCD-Xs because they're so heavy. So in that sense, there's a place for both of them in my studio right now. I mean, I have all kinds of other headphones that are much cheaper and more done for overdubbing, like Audio-Technicas and Biodynamics. But for editing and mixing, having something high resolution is essential for the workflow because, well, it speeds it up for one thing, and it gives you an alternative to your studio monitors. I kind of trying to avoid getting too many studio monitors to check back and forth because these kind of headphones kind of fill that void a lot to me because it takes the room out of the equation for one thing. Yeah, so that's my thoughts on these headphones, and Audezes, to me, are the way to go right now, since I've had all kinds of headphones in my studio, from the heads to the Hifiman in here too. And I'll put a link in the description for that video. But for me, the Audezes, when they're EQ'd, are fantastic. Anyway, that's my thoughts on these headphones. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, take care.